I fit right here, said the alien child, curling up. The queen covered her face. Its hull reflected the soft glow of distant suns, and the hum of its engines was almost musical in the silence of space. Queen Seraphina sat in the observation chamber, her hands folded neatly on her lap, watching the galaxies drift past like streaks of silver and blue paint across a dark canvas. She had been in space for years, traveling from one star system to another, yet the sight never failed to captivate her. It reminded her that the universe was vast, mysterious, and full of possibilities, but also that it could be unpredictable in ways she could never imagine. The Oralia was on a diplomatic mission to a newly discovered planet called Ilaris 9. The planet's inhabitants had never encountered other intelligent life, and the Queen had been sent to establish friendly contact, to show that humans came with curiosity, kindness, and respect. The crew had been preparing for weeks, going over every detail of the first contact protocols. They were nervous, of course, but professionalism was their guide, and they were determined to make a good impression. Seraphina leaned back in her chair, her eyes tracing the delicate light patterns reflected in the glass. She had a reputation for grace, intelligence, and caution, but she also carried a deep loneliness. As the leader of an entire civilization, there were moments when she felt the weight of the stars pressing down on her. She wished sometimes for something, or someone, unexpected to break the monotony of her carefully structured life. Little did she know that unexpected presence was already heading toward her. A sudden blip appeared on the navigation screen, small and irregular. The crew stiffened, their hands instinctively moving to consoles, analyzing the anomaly. The object was small, tiny compared to the Oralia, and it moved slowly, almost as if it were floating aimlessly through space. "Unknown craft," the communications officer said, her voice steady but tinged with curiosity. "It doesn't match any known vessel signature." "Can we hail it?" the Queen asked, her voice calm. She had learned over the years that fear was a poor guide. Curiosity, however, often revealed truths that caution alone could not. "Attempting now," the officer replied, and the usual ping of a communication signal filled the chamber. There was no reply. The craft continued drifting closer, its movements gentle, almost hesitant. Then, as if by chance, it stopped directly in front of the Oralia's main viewport. The crew leaned forward, eyes wide. Inside the tiny vessel was a child. Not a human child, but something entirely different. Its skin shimmered, reflecting the faint light of distant stars in hues of soft green, violet, and gold. Its eyes were large, round, and curious, taking in everything at once with a mixture of innocence and wisdom. The child floated in the small cabin of its craft, perfectly calm, as if it had been waiting for this moment all along. For a moment, there was silence. No one spoke, not because they did not want to, but because they could not believe what they were seeing. It was not fear that gripped them, but awe. The child seemed to radiate a quiet presence, something pure and unassuming that filled the room without effort. Then, in perfect common speech, the child spoke. "I fit right here." The words were soft, almost musical, yet they carried a confidence that startled everyone. The Queen blinked. She had heard many messages in her life, warnings, commands, diplomatic requests, but never a declaration like this, simple yet full of meaning. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Was this a trick, a trap? Yet there was something about the tone, the gentleness in the words that made doubt melt away. Seraphina instinctively covered her face with her hands. She had no idea why she did this, but she felt exposed, almost embarrassed, as if the child could see straight into her thoughts. She had faced enemies, negotiated treaties, and led civilizations, but this small being made her feel completely unguarded. The communications officer hesitated. It doesn't seem hostile, Your Majesty." "I know," the Queen said quietly, her voice muffled behind her hands. "And yet," the child began to move slowly, deliberately toward the airlock. It was small enough that it floated effortlessly, as if space itself were a gentle playground. The crew moved cautiously, ready to respond to any sudden motion, but nothing sudden came. The child stopped at the threshold of the Oralia's chamber and curled up neatly on the floor like it had been placed there by fate. "I fit right here," it said again, its voice calm, almost joyful. The Queen slowly lowered her hands. She stared at the child, unsure of what to do. It was unlike anything she had ever seen, a life form that defied all her expectations. The crew's initial panic faded into curiosity and amazement. They watched the child, unsure whether to approach or wait for further instructions. The ship's science officer finally stepped forward, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Your Majesty," he said, kneeling carefully near the child. "It seems peaceful, maybe even intelligent. I think it wants to communicate." The child turned its large eyes to him and tilted its head. A soft glow emanated from its skin, pulsating gently in rhythm with its breathing. It was a form of expression, the officer realized. The child's emotions were visible, projected as light and color, and the patterns shifted with subtlety that spoke volumes. Happiness, curiosity, trust, these were all there, clear and unmistakable. Serafina's curiosity overpowered her hesitation. She stepped closer, keeping a careful distance, and kneeled down. "And what are you called?" she asked softly. The child's glow brightened for a moment, and then it spoke. "I have no name yet. You may call me Lyra." The simplicity of the moment struck the queen. Lyra curled up even more, as if the very act of being small and gentle were a statement in itself. There was no fear in its posture, no demand, only a quiet presence that seemed to anchor the room. The crew gathered around, slowly forming a circle. Each member felt a strange sense of calm and focus, as if the child's presence had shifted the atmosphere. Even the queen, who was trained to assess threats and opportunities in every encounter, felt a rare and unfamiliar softness in her chest. One of the junior attendants asked timidly, "Your Majesty, should we bring Lyra to the medical bay for examination?" The queen shook her head. "No," she said firmly, though gently. "We will not rush. Let us observe first. Sometimes the best way to understand is simply to be present." Lyra's large eyes seemed to meet hers, and in that moment, an unspoken understanding passed between them. The queen realized that this child, small and fragile as it seemed, had a clarity of purpose she could not yet fully comprehend. It belonged here among humans at this moment, for reasons she did not yet know. Over the next hours, the crew cautiously brought blankets, soft mats, and gentle lights. Lyra accepted each offering without hesitation, curling up more comfortably with every adjustment. It seemed to sense the smallest gestures of care, responding with faint pulses of colored light and soft hums that made the ship feel warmer, softer, almost alive. The queen stayed close, observing. She noticed that when Lyra curled up, it created a space of calm that seemed to spread outward, touching every person in the room. Arguments over minor technical details ceased, and even the usually nervous junior crew members found themselves laughing quietly at small, absurd observations. Lyra's presence was a quiet revolution in human emotion, subtle but undeniable. As the night approached, the ship passed through a dense nebula. The stars outside the viewport shimmered with strange colors, and the hum of the engines seemed to merge with the gentle pulses of Lyra's skin. The queen, exhausted from years of duty and responsibility, finally felt something she had not felt in a long time: peace. Lyra curled up beside her, resting its head on her knee. "I fit right here," it whispered again, as if to remind her that sometimes belonging was not about strength or position, but about simply being in the right place at the right time with an open heart. The queen covered her face once more, this time out of wonder rather than embarrassment. She realized that this small alien child, so different yet so human in spirit, had already begun to teach her lessons she had not known she needed. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and sometimes frightening, but it also held moments of pure connection, moments that reminded one why life, in all its forms, was precious. And in that quiet observation chamber, floating through the glittering stars, the queen and the small alien child began a journey of discovery together, a journey that would change the way she saw her crew, her mission, and herself. The days passed slowly on the Aurelia, yet each one was filled with quiet excitement. Lyra, the small alien child, had become a constant presence in the observation chamber, curling up wherever it pleased. Sometimes it rested on the polished floors, sometimes on soft mats prepared by the crew, and occasionally, if the queen allowed, it would climb onto her lap. Each time, the queen felt a warmth she had not experienced in years of leadership. Lyra's presence was simple yet extraordinary, a gentle reminder that life could be both fragile and magnificent at the same time. The scientists aboard were fascinated. Lyra's species was unlike anything recorded in their extensive databases. Its skin shimmered in colors that shifted with emotions, creating a living display of feelings. Happiness made soft golden hues ripple across its body. Curiosity painted gentle greens, and trust brought out the faintest blues. It was a language of light and feeling rather than sound, and the crew quickly realized that communication with Lyra was a dance of observation and empathy. Queen Seraphina observed quietly, preferring to watch rather than interfere. She noticed that whenever Lyra interacted with the crew, it seemed to understand their moods instantly. A nervous technician would suddenly relax as Lyra approached, and a tense officer would find a smile creeping onto their face as the child's light patterns shifted in gentle encouragement. It was as if the child could see into the heart of every person and offer reassurance without judgment. One morning, as the ship passed near a small cluster of stars that glimmered like liquid crystal, Lyra wandered near the navigation console. Its tiny hands reached out, hovering above the holographic maps that projected the ship's course. The Queen approached slowly, curious to see what the child would do. "You are curious about everything," she said softly, "even the stars themselves." Lyra looked up, its eyes reflecting the soft light of the projection. A gentle ripple of green and gold passed across its skin, and it whispered, "The stars are alive. They remember everything. They watch." The Queen's eyes widened. Such a simple statement, yet it carried an understanding that humans rarely achieved. Stars were usually seen as distant and indifferent, yet Lyra suggested that the universe itself had memory, that life and energy flowed through even the coldest light. The Queen felt a sense of humility in the presence of such wisdom. Over the next week, Lyra continued to explore. It wandered through the corridors, quietly observing how the crew worked, how they interacted, and how they laughed. Whenever someone seemed worried or frustrated, the child would approach, curling up nearby and sending gentle pulses of color that seemed to soothe anxiety. The effect was subtle but undeniable. The crew began to work more efficiently, not because of orders or rules, but because the atmosphere of calm spread like ripples in water. One evening, the Queen called Lyra to the observation chamber. She had been thinking about the upcoming diplomatic mission to Alaris 9 and the delicate task of introducing humans to a civilization that had never encountered other intelligent life. She had prepared strategies, protocols, and even practiced her speeches, but now, sitting across from the small alien child, she wondered if all her careful planning might be too rigid. "You see things differently," she said, her voice soft. "I have studied diplomacy for years, yet I feel you understand it in ways I cannot." Lyra curled up on the floor, tilting its head slightly. Its glow shimmered in soft shades of blue and green. "I see what people feel," it said simply. "Not what they say, not what they hide. Only what is true inside. That is the way to understand." The Queen nodded slowly, realizing the truth in Lyra's words. Diplomacy was often about words, negotiations, and appearances, but what truly mattered was the connection beneath the surface, the feelings, the intentions, the unspoken truth. Lyra, in its quiet and innocent way, had already begun to teach the Queen lessons she had not expected to learn from a child. As the ship approached the outer edge of Alaris 9 system, the crew noticed a series of strange structures on the planet's surface. They were large and elegant, rising like natural formations from the plains, yet clearly designed with intention. Lyra's eyes glimmered with excitement. "They are builders," it said. "They create with joy. They are friends to the stars." The Queen leaned closer. "Do you mean the people of this planet?" "Yes," Lyra replied. "They feel the same as we do, but differently. We must show them kindness first, not fear." The Queen smiled. She had spent her life studying countless civilizations, yet she realized she had never considered that kindness could be the strongest form of leadership. Lyra, in its quiet way, had reminded her of a truth that was simple yet profound. Connection was more powerful than authority. When the Aurelia finally entered orbit around Alaris 9, the Queen organized a small landing party. Lyra insisted on accompanying her, curling up in her lap as the shuttle descended through the planet's atmosphere. The view outside was breathtaking. Towering forests shimmered with colors unlike anything seen on Earth, and rivers glowed faintly as if reflecting hidden light. The air seemed to hum with life, and even the Queen felt a thrill of anticipation. The landing site was a gentle meadow, surrounded by trees whose leaves sparkled with soft, bioluminescent light. From within the trees, small figures emerged, cautious yet curious. They were humanoid, but their features were distinct, their skin glowing faintly in patterns that shifted like the pulse of Lyra's own colors. The humans and the aliens regarded each other carefully, unsure of what to expect. Lyra, sensing the tension, shifted in the queen's lap and extended a tiny hand. A soft glow spread across its body, radiating calm and trust. The inhabitants of Alaris 9 hesitated, then slowly approached, their own skin lighting up in response. It was a silent conversation, a meeting of emotions rather than words, and it carried more meaning than any speech could. The queen stepped forward, her voice gentle but confident. "We come in peace. We seek friendship and understanding." The aliens responded in a series of melodic tones, their bodies pulsating in soft colors that the humans could not fully interpret. But Lyra's presence bridged the gap. It moved closer to the Alaris 9 inhabitants, curling up among them as if it belonged there. The aliens relaxed, sensing the honesty and simplicity of the child's intentions. Over the following days, the queen observed how Lyra helped the humans and the Alaris 9 inhabitants communicate. Simple tasks, such as sharing food or learning about each other's customs, became moments of joy rather than tension. Lyra's gentle guidance and empathetic presence made the alien society feel safe enough to share their stories, their traditions, and their art. The queen found herself learning as well. She discovered games the children of Alaris 9 played, songs they sang to honor the stars, and rituals that celebrated the smallest details of life. Watching Lyra interact, she realized that understanding a civilization was not about control or instruction, but about observing, listening, and participating with an open heart. One evening, as the twin suns set over the glowing plains, the queen sat in a quiet clearing with Lyra curled up beside her. She gazed at the horizon, thinking of the journey ahead and the lessons she had already learned. Lyra's gentle glow illuminated her face, soft and comforting, as if reminding her that even the smallest presence could have the greatest impact. "You have changed this mission," she said softly, more to herself than to Lyra. "I thought it was about observation and diplomacy, but it is more than that. It is about connection." Lyra hummed in response, the colors of its body shifting gently in patterns of gold and green. "Connection is everything," it whispered. "It is why we exist. It is why the stars shine." The queen smiled, finally feeling a sense of peace that she had not known in years. The mission, the journey, the vast galaxy, they all seemed less daunting now because she had discovered a simple truth. Sometimes the smallest being could teach the most profound lessons. As the night settled over Alaris 9, the queen and Lyra sat together, watching the glowing forests and the gentle rise of distant mountains. The crew returned to their quarters, their hearts lighter, their minds inspired by the quiet power of empathy and understanding. The world below was no longer strange or frightening. It was full of possibilities, and each possibility was brighter for the presence of one small, shimmering child. And so, the days continued, each one filled with wonder and discovery. Lyra had shown that patience, observation, and gentle guidance could bridge worlds. The queen realized that her role was not merely to lead, but to nurture understanding, to help humanity and its allies see the beauty in each other. She had once believed that power came from control, but now she understood that true strength came from connection, and sometimes it came in the smallest and most unexpected forms. The child had fit right into the queen's life, the crew's routine, and the mission itself. Lyra's simple presence had transformed the Oralia from a ship carrying diplomats into a vessel of discovery, learning, and joy. It was a reminder that no matter how vast the galaxy, life could be quiet, beautiful, and full of wonder, and that sometimes the heart knew truths the mind could never fully comprehend. The days on Alaris 9 passed like a gentle rhythm, soft and unhurried. Queen Seraphina and her crew moved carefully among the alien inhabitants, learning their ways, sharing their own, and discovering that the simplest gestures often carried the deepest meaning. Yet it was Lyra who became the true bridge between the two worlds. Every time the queen observed the child, curled up in a perfect little circle, glowing softly in the twilight, she realized just how much wisdom a small being could carry. One morning, the queen led the landing party to a glimmering lake, its waters clear and reflecting the colors of the glowing flora around it. Lyra bounded ahead, its small steps careful yet eager, and the Alaris 9 children followed, enchanted by the alien human who seemed so full of life and laughter. The lake was a place of learning and play, and the queen had been told that sharing in the rituals of the local children would create trust. Lyra dipped a tiny hand into the water, letting a ripple flow outward. The Alaris 9 children laughed softly, their glowing patterns brightening in joyful flashes. Lyra mirrored their movements, spinning and splashing gently, sending waves of soft color into the air. The humans, too, joined in, and soon the lake was alive with laughter, glowing patterns, and gentle ripples. It was a moment of unity, where species differences faded, replaced by the shared joy of discovery. After the play ended, the queen sat on the shore, Lyra curled on her lap, its glowing colors shifting from soft gold to calm blues. She watched the Alaris 9 children, noting how quickly they had begun to trust the humans, laughing without fear, allowing themselves to be seen. The child whispered softly, "They feel safe. They see kindness in your heart." Serafina smiled. "And you have taught them that, little one. You have taught all of us." Lyra's small eyes sparkled, reflecting the sunlight filtered through the glowing trees. "It is easy when we are honest. When we show what we feel, others feel it too." The queen nodded, realizing that in diplomacy, honesty and empathy often mattered far more than strategy or speech. She had led armies, negotiated treaties, and faced countless challenges, yet she had never felt the quiet power of simple understanding until now. The child had reminded her that leadership was not only about decisions and commands, but also about seeing, listening, and feeling. Over the next few days, Lyra's presence became essential to every interaction between humans and the Alaris 9 inhabitants. During lessons on agriculture, the child demonstrated techniques with astonishing understanding, picking up plants, mimicking patterns, and showing both humans and aliens how to cooperate. During discussions of art and music, Lyra's glowing patterns harmonized with the Alaris 9 melodies, creating a dance of colors that everyone could see and feel. The humans, initially unsure of how to interpret the alien signals, gradually learned to respond, smiling and laughing as communication grew beyond words. One afternoon, the queen and Lyra wandered through a crystalline forest. The trees shimmered like prisms, casting dancing light across the ground. Lyra paused, curling up on a low branch as if it belonged there, and Serafina sat nearby, watching the child's calm fascination. "They see the world differently," Lyra said softly, its voice blending with the gentle hum of the forest. "Every being has its own way of understanding. You must notice, not judge. You must feel, not command." Serafina's heart swelled at the quiet wisdom. "And how do I teach others to see as you do?" she asked. Lyra's small hand reached out, glowing softly as it brushed a falling leaf. "You do not teach by telling, you teach by showing, you lead by being." The queen considered this, understanding in a deep, instinctive way that this was not a lesson she could give with words alone. It was a lesson to live, to embody patience, empathy, and joy. Lyra, in its quiet way, had already shown her the path. The human crew had also begun to change. Engineers who once moved through their tasks with efficiency alone now noticed beauty in the smallest things. The shimmer of alien leaves, the way sunlight reflected in the waters, the laughter of children who did not speak their language but shared their joy nonetheless. Lyra had taught them to pause, to notice, and to connect. One evening, the queen held a gathering in the heart of the village. The inhabitants had prepared a ceremony to welcome the humans, complete with glowing lanterns that floated into the sky and songs that carried meanings beyond words. Lyra curled up on a cushion beside the queen, glowing softly in response to the lights around them. The queen watched, filled with wonder, as humans and aliens alike shared the moment, their differences fading in the glow of unity. A young Alaris 9 child approached Lyra, holding a small glowing flower. Lyra extended a hand, and the two shared a quiet exchange of color and light, a language of trust that transcended speech. The queen realized that this was the true heart of diplomacy, not words, negotiations, or strategy, but moments of connection and shared understanding. As the ceremony ended, Serafina walked back to her quarters, Lyra trailing beside her. She felt a strange sense of clarity, as if the universe itself had whispered a secret she had only now begun to understand. The child looked up at her and whispered, "You see now. This is what we are meant to do, to show, to share, to connect." The queen nodded, feeling gratitude for the lessons learned. She had spent years in leadership, believing strength came from control and knowledge. Now she realized strength also came from gentleness, from honesty, and from the courage to show one's heart. The next morning, Lyra led the queen to a small plateau overlooking the valley where the village rested. The air was filled with the soft glow of dawn, and the children were already playing, their laughter echoing through the crystalline trees. Lyra curled up beside the queen, and together they watched, a silent presence that spoke louder than any words. "They are ready," Lyra said softly. "They will trust because they see trust in you, and they will learn because they see learning in us all." Serafina felt a wave of peace. For the first time in years, she did not feel the weight of the crown pressing down on her. She realized that leadership was not a burden to bear alone, but a responsibility to nurture, to guide gently, and to inspire connection. Lyra, small as it was, had become the teacher she never expected. Throughout the day, the queen accompanied Lyra as it moved through the village. Together, they helped settle small disagreements among the Alaris 9 children, not by commanding, but by showing calm, patience, and understanding. Even the adults began to observe, learning by example the quiet ways to resolve conflict without harsh words or anger. The queen marveled at how much could be accomplished simply by being present and demonstrating empathy. By evening, the humans and the Alaris 9 inhabitants had grown comfortable with each other. They shared stories, meals, and laughter, and the Oralia's crew joined in willingly, no longer feeling like outsiders. Lyra's gentle presence had softened the barriers between species, reminding everyone that connection, understanding, and shared joy could transcend differences. The queen and Lyra returned to the observation plateau as the twin moons rose over the horizon. The sky was painted in deep purples and blues, and the village below glowed softly. Lyra curled up on the queen's lap, its soft light reflecting in her eyes. "You have changed everything," Serafina whispered. "Not just for me, but for everyone. You have reminded us that the smallest gestures can have the greatest power." Lyra's glow pulsed gently in response. "It is not me alone, it is all of us. We share, we feel, we connect. That is what matters, that is why we exist." The queen leaned back, feeling a rare sense of contentment. She had traveled the stars, met countless civilizations, and faced unimaginable challenges, yet this small alien child had taught her more about leadership, understanding, and life than all her experiences combined. Lyra had reminded her that the universe, in all its vastness, was not only a place of power and discovery, but also of simple, shared moments that created bonds stronger than any rule or decree. As the night deepened, the queen and Lyra remained on the plateau, watching the gentle glow of the village and the sparkling lights of the forests beyond. Every laugh, every pulse of color, every shared moment carried the quiet power of understanding. The queen knew that these lessons would stay with her forever, shaping the way she would lead, teach, and connect with others. And in the quiet, serene glow of the twin moons, the child whispered again, "I fit right here." The queen smiled, finally removing her hands from her face. She had understood completely. Lyra's place was not only beside her, but in the hearts of all those they had touched. And together, they would continue to show the universe the quiet, powerful strength of connection, kindness, and empathy. The stars above seemed to twinkle in agreement, and the queen, holding the small child close, felt a sense of hope and joy that she had never imagined possible. The journey was far from over, but she knew that with Lyra by her side, every challenge could be met with calm, understanding, and the quiet power of the heart. The days on Alaris 9 were growing longer as the planet's twin suns rose and set in a steady, gentle rhythm. Queen Serafina and her crew had become familiar faces in the village, no longer outsiders but participants in daily life. Yet it was Lyra, small and luminous, who remained the heart of every interaction. The child moved among the humans and the Alaris 9 inhabitants with ease, curling up beside those who needed comfort, sharing quiet glances with those seeking understanding, and radiating a calm energy that seemed to touch every being it encountered. One morning, as the first light of the suns painted the sky in gold and lavender, the queen awoke to find Lyra already active. The child had wandered into the gardens surrounding the village, marveling at the plants and flowers, and occasionally touching the soil with small, gentle hands. Serafina followed, moving quietly so as not to disturb the child's exploration. Watching Lyra, she realized that the child's wonder was contagious. Even the simplest plant, the softest bloom, seemed remarkable when seen through its eyes. The village elders had called a meeting for the humans, and the Alaris 9 inhabitants to discuss shared projects. Ways to combine human knowledge with local wisdom for the benefit of both civilizations. Lyra curled up at the center of the gathering, glowing softly, as if offering reassurance to all. Its presence reminded everyone that the goal was not competition or dominance, but cooperation and understanding. As the discussions began, the Queen noticed that even the humans were learning to observe and respond differently. They spoke less and listened more, guided by Lyra's gentle example. Suggestions flowed naturally, and ideas that might have been dismissed in formal councils were met with openness and curiosity. The child's ability to sense emotions and reflect them in glowing patterns allowed misunderstandings to be resolved before words were even spoken. By the end of the meeting, humans and Alaris 9 inhabitants alike felt a quiet bond forming, strengthened by shared purpose and mutual respect. Later that day, the Queen took a quiet walk with Lyra along a river that shimmered with bioluminescent fish. The water reflected the child's soft glow, creating an endless dance of color and light. Lyra paused, dipping a small hand into the cool water, and the ripples spread outward, blending with the gentle currents. The Queen smiled, watching the simple yet profound way the child interacted with the world. "You have done so much here," she said softly. "The humans, the villagers, they all look to you even if they do not say it." Lyra tilted its head, soft gold and green hues pulsing gently across its skin. "I show them what they already have. I do not lead, I reflect. Connection grows when hearts are open." Serafina nodded, understanding in a way that went beyond words. Lyra had taught her that leadership was not about authority or control. It was about creating space for understanding, giving room for hearts and minds to open, and letting kindness guide every action. The Queen felt a sense of humility and gratitude, realizing that even after years of ruling civilizations, she still had much to learn. The following days were filled with quiet adventures. The humans and the Alaris 9 inhabitants explored the forests, mapped the rivers, and exchanged stories under the twin suns. Lyra's presence was constant, curling up beside tired explorers, offering soft pulses of light when someone felt lost or unsure. Even the Queen, whose life had always been planned and structured, found herself laughing more freely, enjoying the simple joys of companionship, discovery, and shared wonder. One afternoon, a young Alaris 9 child approached the Queen and Lyra, holding a small bundle of luminescent flowers. Lyra's eyes widened in delight, and the child handed the flowers to the Queen. The gesture was simple, yet it carried deep meaning, trust, friendship, and the willingness to share. The Queen accepted them with care, feeling the weight of the moment. Lyra curled up beside her, glowing softly in quiet celebration. As evening approached, the Queen decided to hold a small gathering at the village's central plateau. The idea was to share stories, music, and laughter between humans and Alaris 9 inhabitants, to strengthen bonds and leave memories that would last long after the humans returned to their spaceship. Lanterns made of glowing crystal floated into the sky, and gentle music, a blend of human instruments and the melodic tones of the Alaris 9, filled the air. Lyra moved among the guests, quietly ensuring that no one felt left out or alone. Its soft glow blended with the lanterns, creating a sea of shifting colors that reflected the joy and warmth of the gathering. Children laughed and danced, humans shared stories of faraway planets, and Alaris 9 inhabitants taught songs and games that had been passed down through generations. Every person felt included, every heart touched by the quiet power of connection. The Queen watched, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. She had come to Alaris 9 to represent humanity, to build bridges between civilizations, and she realized that the child had made those bridges stronger than anything she could have achieved alone. Lyra had shown that the simplest gestures, kindness, patience, empathy, could be more powerful than strategy, protocol, or command. As the lanterns drifted higher into the sky, Lyra curled up in the Queen's lap, its glow mingling with the reflected light above. "I fit right here," the child whispered softly. The Queen smiled, covering her face briefly, then lowering her hands. She understood completely. Lyra had found a place not only beside her, but in the hearts of all who had come to know it. The child's presence had created understanding where there was once caution, friendship where there was once distance, and joy where there had been uncertainty. The Queen turned to the villagers and the humans gathered around, her voice gentle but clear. This evening shows us what is possible when we open our hearts. We do not need to be the same to understand each other. We only need to care, to listen, and to share. Applause and laughter followed, but more importantly, the sense of unity was tangible. The humans and the Rolaris 9 inhabitants felt connected in a way that could not be undone by distance or time. Lyra's simple presence had made that possible, and the Queen felt a profound gratitude for the small being that had transformed not only the mission, but also her own understanding of life. The following day, as the humans prepared to return to the Aurelia, the villagers gathered to say farewell. Lyra remained with the Queen, glowing softly as the humans approached the shuttle. Children handed small gifts, flowers, stones that glimmered with color, and delicate trinkets that reflected the beauty of their world. Lyra's small hands accepted some of these gifts, and the Queen held others carefully, knowing that each one represented a bond that could last far longer than the journey home. Before boarding the shuttle, the Queen knelt beside Lyra. "You have changed everything," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "I do not know how we will ever repay you." Lyra curled up on her lap, glowing gently in soft blues and golds. "There is no need for repayment. We do not act for reward. We act because we care." "You have learned this. That is enough." The Queen nodded, understanding that the lessons Lyra had taught were priceless. Connection, empathy, kindness, these were the tools that could shape civilizations, build peace, and create joy. She had seen it firsthand, and she would carry it with her always. As the shuttle lifted off, the Queen looked down at the village, glowing softly under the twin suns. Lyra pressed a small hand to her chest, a gesture that spoke of trust, companionship, and love. The Queen returned the gesture, knowing that even across the distance of space, their bond, and the bonds they had helped create, would endure. Back aboard the Aurelia, life resumed, but nothing was quite the same. The crew moved with a renewed sense of purpose, inspired by the lessons of connection and understanding they had witnessed. Even the ship seemed to hum with a softer, warmer energy, as if the light and joy from Alaris 9 had followed them home. The Queen sat in her observation chamber, Lyra curled in her lap, reflecting on the journey. She had come to the stars with a mission of diplomacy, expecting careful protocols, speeches, and formal exchanges. Instead, she had discovered that the true heart of understanding lay in shared moments, in empathy, in laughter, and in the quiet, unwavering presence of a small alien child who had shown her the way. "I fit right here," Lyra said again, curling into a perfect circle, its glow reflecting in the Queen's eyes. Serafina smiled, finally removing her hands from her face, no longer out of surprise or hesitation, but in recognition and joy. The child's words were true, and they would remain true in the hearts of all they had touched. The universe was vast, full of wonders and challenges, but it was also full of connection, empathy, and the quiet power of kindness. And as the Aurelia sailed once more among the stars, the Queen and the small alien child sat together, knowing that wherever they went, whatever they faced, they had found a place. Not just in the galaxy, but in each other's hearts, a place where they truly fit. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, shimmering with possibilities, and in that infinite expanse, the Queen felt a peace she had never known. She understood that leadership, friendship, and discovery were not about control or strategy alone, but about seeing, feeling, and sharing with an open heart. Lyra, small yet mighty in its quiet wisdom, had reminded her of the simple truth. Sometimes, the greatest journeys are not about where we go, but about the connections we make along the way. And so, with the soft glow of Lyra at her side, the Queen watched the galaxy stretch into infinity, her heart filled with hope, wonder, and the knowledge that together, they had created a story of understanding that would echo through the stars forever.